Disney World and Universal have been in an unspoken competition for decades. Theme parks versus theme park. Star Wars versus Harry Potter. Mouse versus Monkey and Shark. With Universal opening up their brand new park, Epic Universe, in a few years, it's possible Disney might consider opening up a fifth gate. But what kind of park would it be? We asked our readers, what would you want Disney World's fifth gate to be?
Hot topic for us today, friends. Disney World, fifth gate. We obviously have 4 parks in Disney World with Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and Hollywood Studios. But it's been quite a long time since they've opened a theme park. The last one was Animal Kingdom in '98. So it's been a while. And people are, Epic Universe is coming over at Universal Orlando. It's just getting so crowded at Disney World. Some people are thinking, what if? What if there was a fifth park? So that's the question we asked today that we posed to our readers. And I think a couple of us have some agreement with some of our readers. But Disney World still has access to thousands of acres of land that they own that they would be able to build a fifth gate on, if not even 2 smaller parks. And rumors have been floating for a long time that Disney has been working on a fifth gate. And fans have started to come up with their own ideas and plans and thoughts on what that could be, even though nothing has been announced of any sort about there being a fifth gate. And a lot of people think one might not ever happen. But what would we like to see representing our readers? RJ, what do you think? What do you think would be a good theme for a fifth park?
Well, listen, this was actually the #1 submitted response for our readers. And I completely and totally agree. And I just gotta do it because I'm dramatic. Villains! Listen, a villains park. I mean, but is anyone surprised? Are you guys surprised that people really want this?
No, not at all.
The villains are literally key to every Disney story. They're the important part. They're the conflict. And Disney villains have a way of really having you cheer for them, but not, you know what I mean when I say that? It's they're bad.
You love to hate them and you hate to love them.
It's a really complicated thing. I mean, listen, Ursula was a businesswoman, okay? Is it her fault that Ariel didn't want to keep up her end of the bargain? I don't think
Absolutely
so.
Not.
No.
Can we just talk about Captain Hook and the fact that he was being tormented by a little boy? He was literally just being tormented.
He was. And you know what? Peter Pan is immortal. So he was actually not a little boy. He was just acting like a little boy for his whole life and in the body of a little boy.
Right?
So...
This ancient man who in the body of a child is, I'm just saying.
Makes you feel different about Peter Pan, huh?
Seriously, villains are such an integral part to the Disney story, and to be able to go and experience a land or a park specifically just for villains with attractions and rides and, a spooky castle, a Maleficent castle, and, there's so many villains that Disney has, in their various IPs. I mean, how cool would it be to see the Sheriff of Nottingham walking around, or, vintage villains and new villains? Come on, you guys. And our readers agree. Peter D says, I think villains would give Walt Disney World a gate for teens and families with older kids. Hopefully some thrill rides to keep up the pace with Universal in that demographic. And I think that's a very interesting point, because if you think of villains, you kind of think of extreme and thrill and, spooky and rock and roll.
Fire, Thor.
Right. I don't know why I want to just be yeah. But it's kind of that energy. And I feel like they can, build incredible roller coasters and have spooky, scary nights and, bring that energy to a villain's park. I mean, what do y'all think about that?
I think it's a great idea. And I think it's really cool if we think about really everything in this villain's land could possibly be from the villain's perspective. So maybe it's the same, maybe we have another Little Mermaid ride, but it's from Ursula's point of view.
Retelling That's a
retelling the same story,
but
that. From her point of view. So I'm really into that. I love villains, honestly. Also, fun story. Apparently, I might be able to work there because when I was at Disney back in February for the race, I was on the bus going to Disney Springs and I was wearing a red dress and my hair was long and it was curly and it was humid and it was poofy. And this cute little 6-year-old girl looked at me and she goes, "Are you Mother Gothel?" And I went, "Yes."
Yes, I
am. Or actually, she was actually really smart because she goes, "Are you Disney bounding as Mother Gothel?" And I was like, first a little offended, but then I was like, you know what, kid? Yeah, I am. So catch me as Mother Gothel out in the park, wherever this is.
What kind of villain attractions would you guys bring to the park?
Well, there's always that one that they talk about having been in production for, I think, Magic Kingdom, which was the Bald Mountain attraction. So it was going to be another Magic Kingdom mountain, and it was going to be villains themed, all kind of wrapped up with a bunch of different villains in the night on Bald Mountain. It was going to have Chernabog from Fantasia, was going to be like kind of a climactic point of the theming. Also, I need you guys to know this. You guys know House of Mouse, the Mickey Mouse show, where it was like Mickey's House of Mouse?
Yes,
the villain episode.
There was an episode called Mickey's House of Villains, which is what I feel like this could be, is the villains overtake like Magic Kingdom. So it looks the same as Magic Kingdom, but villains have overtaken it. But in that episode, you get to see Chernabog's legs, and that's really something. Yeah, so just you like Chernabog, thick thighs. So just something to be aware of, especially for the theming of the mountain. But that's what I would want, is that villain concept they already came up with. That just sounds so cool. I think it was supposed to be a coaster. It was going to be really cool. I'd even take a dark ride, honestly. And I know that like a lot of criticisms of like a villain's park is like, oh, kids will be scared. That's okay. We put Alien Encounter in the parks.
Yeah.
And Hollywood Studios definitely is a little more grown-up geared, but it's a smaller park and still has a lot that's kid geared. It's still very family geared. So I don't know. I think I would be down with having something that kind of competed with Universal a little more in that way, of just having a land that was a little scarier, a little more thrilling. Also, a lot of kids like scary villains and thrill rides. So it's not like some kids are scared, but a lot of kids like that stuff. I did. Captain Hook has been my favorite my whole life. I was 5 years old, like, Captain Hook!
I don't know. I was trying to come up with a fun boat ride. Like, maybe taking a boat to, like, the underworld to see Hades or something.
Ooh.
I thought that could be a nice little boat ride.
Cool.
Yeah, but I've not expanded on that idea yet. So, we're still
because you've been too busy sitting in fear.
Thinking about, Kingdom Keepers. Isn't that what everybody does?
Seriously, like, I've been thinking about it, too. And I think that it would be really cool to split the entire park. I'm so with you, Quincy, on just having it be a darker version of Magic Kingdom. Interesting. I feel like they have the Imagineers that could really bring this to life. And Debbie G, our reader, agrees. She says, you can create some pretty wicked rides revolving around all evilness in Disney movies. Scary enough that kids will enjoy it. And sometimes maybe late night, super scary events for adults. That would be pretty cool. What do you guys think about that? I think that could give Halloween Horror Nights a run for their money. If they did like some spooky Disney after hours event. And let me tell you something, the people want it. As someone who lives in California, who, the Oogie Boogie Bash, which I hope you guys get to come to soon.
I want to come so bad this year.
It looks so good.
It is amazing. We had zombie Captain America, and he was terrifying.
And Sid from Toy Story. That was
equally scary.
And there was even like a little section.
Ryan's afraid of children. A lot of people don't know that. It's because they're the same size as her.
They're intimidating.
Yeah,
they're my size. Be, especially on a Disney cruise, but that's another episode. But there's something called Villains Grove as well, and it's like a really spooky type of walk-through experience at California Adventure that happens at Oogie Boogie Bash, and I feel like that's something that they can build upon and kind of make like a scare zone or like a walk-through, and have Maleficent's minions popping out at you and things like that. I just think it's a great opportunity, and people really want it. Daniel S. says, a villain's land, but make it darker. Maybe a haunted mansion with some jump scares. Now, wait a minute, Daniel. Okay, didn't nobody say nothing about haunted mansion? A small world where dolls are coming after you instead of singing to you?
That's the scariest thing I've ever heard. No.
I have to leave.
A Peter Pan ride where Captain Hook wins. A Pirates of the Caribbean with jump scares. Listen, Daniel. I was with you until the Haunted Mansion. I mean,
I was with you, and then I wasn't with you, and then I'm back with you again on the Peter Pan ride where Captain Hook wins. I'm with you on that one. That man does not deserve to get eaten by a crocodile. He's just trying to pirate his crew.
Big brain moment. What if this whole entire land is just every retelling of the Disney story except the villain wins in the end?
Now, I'll also say we do have Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, where we get some good villain representation. And I actually think this is a testament to Disney's ability to do villains in a way that remains family friendly. So if it wasn't the kind of thing where they wanted to expand and they wanted to keep their fifth gate just as like everyone enjoys it as all the other parks, then I think that Mickey's Not So Scary shows that you can do that. That party, like, I consistently see little kids freaking out and having fun seeing the villains in the parade. And like a lot of little kids are a lot braver than you think. I just saw at Festival of Fantasy, I was with one of you, but I saw at Festival of Fantasy, there was like one of the Briar guys from the Very Scary Stilt guys, like came over to a little girl and like stomped down directly in front of her. She was like 4 years old and was like looming down on her. And she was like, "You're a bad guy." Like her reaction was not to get scared. She was telling him off. She was like, "Quit it." So like they're braver than Emma, you know?
Yeah, I literally was about to say that. I'm really glad that you went ahead and got it out there.
So hands down. So I think that like the fact that we have Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party shows that they could do this. And also, if this is the kind of thing you want to see now, then maybe consider going to that Halloween party. That has a lot of villain representation. Usually like really wild villains are there in the Boo to You parade and then also as meet and greets. My favorite is when they bring out Bowler Hat Guy from Meet the Robinsons. I go crazy for that. That's so exciting.
Speaking of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, I hate to interrupt, but we all need to go look at Ashley Eckstein's story because you two are on it.
Yay!
That's crazy.
Rye, what do you think? What would be a good fifth gate idea?
So, hear me out. Disney has already tried this with a land that currently exists, and we go there all the time. But I think it would make the people happier if we turned it into a whole park. So I'm thinking Star Wars. Now,
Okay.
there's a lot that we can do with this. Yes, Batuu already exists, but there's so much within the Star Wars canon, within every single Star Wars story. You can totally make a whole park out of it. Easily. Star Wars is one of the most recognizable IPs in the world. Even people who aren't Disney people, they know Star Wars. They love Star Wars. Some people think Disney hasn't done a great job with Star Wars, so maybe this would be a redemption point for Disney. There's 3 trilogies. There's spin-off movies. There's TV shows. There's more stuff on Disney+. There's comic books. We've already got a land for it. Fully immersive hotel experience. We can, like, there's so many things. So, and even speaking about the movies, recently, Kathleen Kennedy, who's from Lucasfilm, revealed that they are making even more movies with another trilogy. It sounds like they're digging deeper into the past. With so much material to pull from, you could easily turn this into a fifth gate. And we have readers that agree with me. Michael N says, should have made Galaxy's Edge and the stuff outside it, like Star Tours and Launch Bay, a fifth gate. Could add so much more from the Star Wars universe. A ride based on the pod racing from episode 1 could be amazing.
That'd be fun.
I agree. I very much agree. So really, Star Wars, there's so many planets within that universe. And it's unique because... Oh.
What?
Quincy just had an idea.
What if the kids part of the park, like, you know, all the parks have like a part that's more geared towards kids. What if the kids geared part was the Ewok planet?
I want to go there.
Ewoks.
I want to go there.
I love that.
I would like to do that.
That would be so fun.
I want that.
That's my contribution. I'm sorry. Continue.
Okay, I love that. I love that.
That was a good interruption.
But again, there's so many different planets with so many different environments, so many different aesthetics. You could totally easily, how Magic Kingdom has all those different lands, you could do that with the Star Wars park, and it could be each different planet. It's very easy to do. Hoth is an ice planet. Mustafar is a lava planet. Chewie's home is a forest planet, like with the Ewoks. So we could easily do that. Another reader, James D, says, it's too late now, but they could have added a fifth gate just for Star Wars with more of a thrill ride focus. As cool as Galaxy's Edge is, it's still a relatively small area of the park, and it's disappointing that there's no Star Wars themed roller coaster at all.
Star Wars themed roller coaster. I wish there was one. That would be cool.
I know.
Can you imagine if it was like, I mean, it would be hard to do because I think you would have to do it either fully indoor or somewhat simulator-y for it to feel like spacey. I'm like imagining like taking down the Death Star with like
that's
like
where my mind
hyperspace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's where mine's at. It's like a hyperspace mountain-esque, but like
oh my
Guardians
gosh, yeah. Because hyperspace. Have you guys been on Hyperspace Mountain?
No.
Hyperspace Mountain is my favorite version of the overlays, and we've had Hyperspace Mountain, and we've had Ghost Galaxy Space Mountain, where like a literal space ghost is chasing you around. And Hyperspace Mountain is so cool because that's how they frame it, you know? You're literally, trying to destroy the Death Star, and there's projections and there's lasers and, the sound effects and the music. It is so
cool.
iconic. And I feel like they could do it. But to your point, Fry, I would say if they did this, they'd have to bring back some classic stories and some characters in order for it to be successful. They've got to rely on the original trilogy in some form or fashion, because if I'm going to get on a roller coaster and save the galaxy, I want to do it with Luke. You know what I mean? I want Luke to be next to me. I want to see Darth Vader, choke somebody and like throw them across the room.
Yeah.
I mean, as terrible as it sounds.
I do agree. I agree. I think if they were to do this, they would have to do it that way. Not the whole entire park, but again, we could jump timeline. We could go back and forth in time.
Yeah, the different lands could be different time.
Could be different trilogies.
Yeah.
They do it in Avengers Campus,
They
You can literally see both Captain Americas just kind of hanging out, talking to each other.
They just need to write a multiverse into Star Wars in one of these new movies, and then we'll be good. That's what we need.
I mean, I think we do it all a Wizarding World and just never acknowledge a timeline. Everyone's there. Maybe they're 18, maybe they're 11. It doesn't matter. They're there. And I frankly would be fine with that because that's my biggest complaint about Batuu is like, I like those characters, but I don't feel connected to them. And I like Rey. Rey's cool. I don't really care about the rest of them. I like the movies, but I want to go see Anakin just for personal reasons.
And Padme.
Oh yeah, Padme's cool too.
I would want to meet Padme in her purple yellow dress.
I want to meet Yoda.
Oh, I want to meet Yoda.
That's who I want to meet, right? When you want to meet Yoda?
Jar Jar Binks.
Baby Yoda.
And look, even to get into the new storyline, not Jar Jar Binks, not Jar Jar. Oh my gosh, not Jar Jar.
He would have the longest line. He would. We all know it.
As long as they bring back the Jedi Training Academy, where you can see the little kids in all their Jedi robes with fighting, I'm fine.
So cute. And then they fight.
That's what I really want.
That's what I'm talking about. Kids are brave, man. Those kids,
yeah,
like Kylo Ren comes out and they don't even hesitate.
No
They're
flinch.
like, time for a
Jedi
they battle.
Him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, my one request would be that I get to pilot a real AT-AT around the park.
Oh my goodness.
That's really bold.
That's a hefty request.
I mean, maybe not really around the park, but that should be one of the rides where you're like, you can feel it. Boom.
I personally want just to be having like a nice relaxed day at a park and then all of a sudden be terrorized by an AT-AT and you find out it's just Fry casually driving one through the park.
By the smallest
it is not a ride.
In your life.
She just found one. This has nothing to do with Disney. She's just doing it for fun. Wheel. Yeah, she's just hoping she doesn't hit somebody.
I'm like, sorry. And another reader, Matt G, says, I agree with the previous posts about Star Wars, but I don't think that it's too late. The land in Hollywood Studios is called Galaxy's Edge, so maybe a fifth gate could be called Star Wars Galaxy, which is a good point. And talking about that, we do need to go back to what Emma mentioned earlier and talk about Harry Potter World in Universal Studios, because obviously Universal, the biggest IP there is Harry Potter. There's 2 different Harry Potter lands in 2 different parks, and it works. It completely makes sense the way that they did it with the school and then Diagon Alley and the train back and forth. That's perfect. We probably could do the same thing here, where maybe this new park is kind of somewhat close to Hollywood Studios, and there's some way that you can get from Galaxy's Edge to the other park.
That happens on Star Cruiser.
It does.
You go from Star Cruiser to Galaxy's Edge in a van.
Yes.
Space van.
Yeah, which they could have done better about
like
that. But anyway,
it that way. Yeah.
It was a space van.
Everybody get in the van.
There's so much Star Wars content that we can work with. They're still coming up with more. So the opportunities are endless. I think it would make a lot of people happy if they did it correctly, if they at least somewhat brought back the classic characters that people wanted in the first place with Galaxy's Edge. So I think it's a good idea.
Listen, I waited 3 hours to meet Leia in Disneyland, okay, for Princess Night. That line was so long. People want the classic characters. They want what's familiar. We love the mood. Don't get me wrong. Loving Lizzo and Mandalorian, super cute. Loving Jack Black and Christopher Lloyd, it's giving me life. However, I want to see, my classic characters who I grew up with. I want to see Leia and Hans walking around holding hands in Star Wars land, and then all of a sudden they're attacked and they're fighting and it becomes a show around me. I want the immersiveness that we were promised in Galaxy's Edge in this gate if they open it. Period.
Agreed.
Is that a wand that you have that you just randomly pulled out your wand?
Yeah.
I'm kind of obsessed.
You have your fans. I have my wands.
My wand's on the couch. We've been holding it while we watch the movies.
Villains, Star Wars, both good ideas. Emma, what else are our readers saying?
So a lot of people, we have fifth gate ideas for sure, but a lot of our readers also said, what if we just, maybe no fifth gate per se, no new parks, but what if we expand on what we have? And I'm firmly in this team right now. So since Disney's 2020 closures, we have had some, safe to say, chaotic times. The park reopened and it was forced to deal with a lot of changes that we still are seeing ramifications of even now, almost 3 years later. There's financial negotiations, staffing issues, capacity problems. Lots of things were happening since we reopened for COVID. And thanks to social media, we are more in tune now than ever with what's actually happening because we can be a part of the conversation way more than we ever have been. So that also means we're seeing the good things and the bad things more than we ever have. And that's just, it's hard to ignore. Iger mentioned in the 2023 shareholder meeting that they are going to be investing $17 billion into this Walt Disney World over the next decade. So we're going to be seeing a lot of things. And just to put that into perspective, that's more than Universal's third park is currently costing. But they've not really alluded to a fifth park per se. So we're going to see a lot of changes, but we think they're just going to be expansions and not necessarily a full park. So don't get me wrong, there's always amazing things happening at Disney, but it is okay to admit when certain aspects of the park need some love. And I'm sure we all can think of at least one place right now off the top of our heads that we know probably needs some TLC Dino Land. Theodore S. actually really agrees with me. He says they have to expand the capacity, even if it's just adding a new land per park. The parks are so crowded now. There are really no longer low seasons like we used to see, and prices really reflect low supply and high demand. I actually completely agree with that. In the past, you could come between kind of the holidays and spring break time and no one would be here. I have not experienced that in the last 2 to 3 years. I think adding another one land per park could really help with that. What do you guys think?
That's definitely fair. Spreading out some of the crowds that are in the parks already. Like, yes, a fifth gate certainly seems like the easy answer, like spread out more of the people into an entire other park, and like that might work. But also what could work is expanding the current parks to be able to accommodate more people at a time. That could work just as well. And I do think, like, I mean, Emma and I are in Disney World a lot since it reopened in 2020. The way that crowds have worked is just wild. It's like not how it used to be. And like sometimes I'll be like, oh hey, like, you know, this should be a slow weekend. And I'll be like, it has been slammed. And I'm like, what do you mean it's been slammed? Like, that conversation is regular. There's crowd calendars aren't as accurate anymore. It's much harder to predict, and it will likely, or hopefully, mellow out again to be something predictable. But right now, the past 2-3 years, it's just been so shaken up from those 2020 park closures and all the international restrictions and health concerns and things like that, that there's no predictability right now. It's in this like transitioning phase where it's super jumbled up, and maybe it will settle somewhere predictable again. But right now, also, it is just getting hotter in Florida summers, and I would not want to come here for a Florida summer if I were a tourist. I mean, I didn't when I was a tourist, and now I still wouldn't. So,
well, you got to think about this too. Like, the world completely shut down. People were in their homes for such a long time, and I feel like now that everything is like literally open again, and it kind of seems like we were never in a pandemic, people want to, you know, have that time and that moment and reclaim that energy back, you know? And a lot of us just need the escapism. You know what I'm saying? People are like, the world is traumatic enough. Let me go have a good time. So I completely agree in that aspect. And I never thought about it that way, because every time I've been since, you know, the Panini, it has been super crowded. And, you know, it's kind of like that thing where you've got to get Disney Genie, or you've got to decide what you're going to do. And new lands might help mellow that out. You know, it'd be something more for people to do, some other attractions. So I can see that point. I feel you on that.
Another thing too, if you're thinking about what he said about like low supply but high demand, you mentioned it yourself, Genie Plus. Genie started at $15 a day. It was around $15 to $20, $25 for a while. Now we're seeing days where Genie's up to $35 per person per day. And as long as the park crowds keep being as high as they are, people aren't going to be able to get through those lines. They're not going to be able to do as much. So Genie is going to become more in demand. And then inevitably the prices are going to raise. And Disney is a business, but I'm a firm believer that we shouldn't be pricing out lower class or middle class families. Disney should be for everybody. And so I think by adding a little bit more space to make those things more attainable and keep prices lower in that regard will be just, I think, great for everybody. And it makes it more accessible for other people too in the long term. David S. also agrees with this. He says that I want all the efforts and money to go into making the 4 gates we already have be repaired, maintained, and even improved before even considering a 5th gate. You cannot have more toys until you take care of the ones that you already have. Honestly, I think David is preaching. I have never thought about it that way. That is a really, really good idea. We are seeing more and more ride closures, unfortunately, and you can follow AllEars.net on Instagram because we do tend to post when major attractions are down. Shameless plug right there. But why are we seeing so many rides close? I mean, all the time. I was in Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios yesterday. Rise was closed for most of the day. Cali River Rapids closed multiple times, and while I was on it, Lightning McQueen went down. I mean, random things were going down all day, and I was trying to ride everything, which wasn't helpful. But why are these closing all the time? We really only can speculate. There's no real way for us to know, but we do know that staffing is still low. It also means that we probably don't know how maintenance is looking. We don't know if they're able to keep those attractions and tech up and running, or at least keep them maintained to the level that they probably should be. So I think that I like where David S. is headed. I just think we need some TLC with what we've got, and then we can maybe get to a 5th park.
This stuff's also old. I mean, Magic Kingdom, that's complicated technology that is 50 years old.
Jeez.
Like, that's gonna need a lot of like TLC and probably full refurbishment. And right now it's so tricky for them to be able to close more than one ride at a time because the crowds are so high that if you do that, you're running into the issue of then where are all those people going to be? Wait times are going to get astronomical. And I think stuff is just so old that it does need a little love. Mm-hmm. I mean, I like, this is just like rumor, but the People Mover closure from 2020, 2021, that was so long, where People Mover was just down. Like, the rumor is that the tech was so old that they didn't have what they needed to fix it anymore. And they had to bring in like the old guys, to like the old class of Imagineers, to come and help fix it, because the way the tech works isn't how it works anymore. Like, that whole system was built on an entirely different system of technology than we even use today. So like, that kind of thing is happening with all these rides. Like, they are ancient, and the fact they run as well as they do, even in Animal Kingdom, those rides are 25 years old. The fact that these like incredibly complicated technological marvels run as well as they do is amazing. And I think they deserve the money and time and effort put into them to keep them going for years to come, another 50 years. David, you got an idea going for you there, David.
He knows what he's talking about. And even to expand that point, not even just the rides themselves, but the entire, just every part of the park. Like, sometimes you'll be walking around Magic Kingdom and maybe a restaurant facade needs a little work, or like something needs to be repainted, or the things don't look as nice as they used to. And so just making the park in general, give it a little facelift before we decide to leave that park alone and build a whole new park. I think that would make people happy, and honestly make it a little bit more worth your money when you're buying all these tickets, because you think, oh, you know, if Disney wants to call themselves a luxury theme park, well, it needs to feel like one when you're walking around, and it doesn't feel like that as much anymore. So even let's just give everything a paint job, you know, give it a little facelift and make it feel a little bit updated and nicer. I think that would also help.
We also, one more person that agrees in our camp and kind of builds off of what we've talked about as a whole, says his name is TE, and he says, no new park. Expanding the existing ones with some more thrill rides would be exciting, but Walt intended to bring families together, not have a park for teenagers, a park for kids, and maybe one for the people who are nostalgic. And honestly, I have not ever really thought about it that way, but we have mentioned like different areas for different ages, and I really like that idea. I mean, I don't know, Walt did intend for it to be for families, so I don't think we should add a fifth gate just so maybe teenagers will like Disney a little bit more, or maybe some adults would choose more thrill things over Universal.
There's definitely a preferred park for every person based on your needs and wants, you know? But is that a pro or is that a con, you know? Is the fixed high price and high crowds expanding parks, or will it just draw even more people? That is an unanswerable question, because with expansion, it's going to bring more people in. More people are going to want to experience the parks, and different people from different fandoms. So although it might, you know, create more space, is it really going to lessen the crowds? And that's really the question we have to ask ourselves.
Fifth gate could happen, could not happen. We could just see expansion. Who knows what the theme could be? It could be a really generic theme. It could be villains and Star Wars. And they also help all the rest of the parks and give them a little TLC. Everything could be true. None of it could be true. But we'll certainly see what these $17 billion are going towards. And you can keep up on AllEars.net with every single change that we hear, know about, that is announced, that we spot in the parks. We are there every single day. So if you're curious what that $17 billion is going towards, you should be keeping an eye on AllEars.net.
If you like this video, please click on that thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. We have videos coming out every day, and if you click on that notification bell, you'll always get an alert when the new video is up. And also be sure to visit AllEars.net, where you can read other people's reviews and write your own reviews about your experiences in Disney World. If you have some thoughts, we want to hear them. Comment below. This is Chris for AllEars.net. See you next time.